get on the speakers.
Well, he was what, 86 years old?
Yeah, he got some age and health problems.
What did-
But anyway, his complaints with the sheriff, not necessarily us anyway, he thinks he was told and bothered needlessly by the sheriff, so just the last thing that
Credit application for the solid waste district.
businesses asked.
We don't.
Yeah.
But I know we did this.
I was surprised at that.
Well, actually, when you say government, you mean solid waste?
Yeah, they're taxing them to see, but yeah, they're wanting solid, solid waste is one of this guy has read that. Is that what you're saying?
They apply to solid waste.
Just solid waste.
It's for an encounter at a transfer station.
I misunderstood,
Yes.
excuse me.
Yeah.
They're one because they're starting to clean out apartments from people that they
I
put in.
understand. My mistake, I didn't miss somebody.
I'd say they have a lot of trash. You want that back? You guys, you want to see it? That's solid waste.
1 year.
Who's your open, the one that's on the
Got
account?
money in 26. Hey, we need to pay more than 127. And then we know it goes away, so it's going to cover 1 year.
All right, how are you?
Well, if it had quit raining, it'd be a little better.
Well, it just comes a little at a time.
Started on the day.
Sit at home and sun's shining, flip Facebook on and some streets flooding down.
Well, folks, I see the clock says it's 8:30, so I call this meeting of the Morris County Solid Waste District order. Next item on the agenda is approval of the previous minutes. I have a motion.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second. I have a motion, and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of claims for the period.
I'll make a motion to approve the claims.
Motion,
Second.
second. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. District Director's report.
Good morning. I'm going to start off today just with your standard agenda packet. And we want to turn to page 12. And item number 2 is the transfer station operation hours, which the board approved a change at our last meeting. This will begin on August 30th. The new operation hours will be 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. noon. And then any payloads, anything requiring payment, will need to be across the scale no later than 11:40 a.m. And this time changes for Saturdays only at our transfer station. So, number Item 3 on your agenda is the transfer station wheel stop and hopper repairs. Just an update on that. What I understand, they're finishing up this week on that. There's a small section of metal topping there on the floor that they had to replace right there at the wheel stop. So they're going to be finishing that up, and we should have a final claim for payment either at the August 12th or the August 26th board meeting. So I do have this is kind of a little sample of what that floor topping system is. I have brought this to the meeting before. Some of you may not have seen this. If you want to pass it around, basically, it's showing you concrete here at the bottom, and then you have this laminated top of hardened floor with steel, I think, within that. So if I'll go ahead and just pass that around if you want to look at it. And this will kind of lead into our next item on the agenda, number 4 on page 13. And this is what we're looking at, redoing the whole floor. It's worn down pretty significantly in some areas. And again, that would be similar to that type of a topping for that. The engineers are currently looking at our options. One or two options we're going to consider is either placing the new topping on the existing topping or removing the existing topping, and starting from, the previous concrete we had. So from what I understand, it's a challenging thing to get that topping off. My only concern was if you add more to that topping, we already have minimal clearances at the overhead door, so it just adds more to that. So hopefully we'll address that, when we do this. So we should have some preliminary recommendations out of the August 27th meeting as far as what the engineer is going to propose there, and some cost estimates as well for that floor replacement. So we move to item 5 on your agenda. This is for the vegetative waste grinding services. Bob Ray Company had submitted a proposal to do grinding out there, and as we looked at that proposal closer, we realized that it had a provision in it for damages to their equipment in the event that they come across contaminated materials like rock, metal, things like that. So I communicated with them and asked them, can you give us some clarity on what our responsibility would be there? And at this point, it doesn't have any clarification on percentages or dollar amounts. So I felt that was leaving that wide open there, that we would agree to do that if we signed off on that. So I asked them to give me some clarity in that. In the meantime, I'm asking for a second proposal from another company, and they're called Forest Commodities. We have used them in the past, and they're out of Mooresville, Indiana. So we'll review that proposal to see if they've got any provisions in that as well, and also compare the pricing, and then I'll be coming back to the board for a new recommendation on that grinding services, depending on what I find out. The main thing is with this current proposal, it just seems like it's open. Those grinders are $1 million piece of equipment, and the grinding mechanisms, all that, you could come up with a pretty big damage claim there if you're not careful. If a piece of steel or something gets in that. At our compost facility, if anybody's ever been up there, you've got so much material up there, and people dumping stuff, it'd almost be impossible to really know if there's going to be a contaminant in there or not. So I did contact our insurance company to see if we had any insurance that would cover our liability there, and according to them, it says since we're assuming this liability by contract, the contractual liability exclusion would apply. And then also the coverage for the damage to the contractor's equipment, it should be covered under their inland marine policy. It should be. And wondering if that they're just trying to mitigate their risk by passing that expense on to us instead of their insurance. So anyway, like I said, I'm planning on getting that second proposal, see if they have anything that would mitigate that risk for us by not having that provision.
We
So,
do not load their machine, though. Is that correct? Okay.
no. Our scale house, when materials come in, they do a little ask, hey, what do you got in there, and try to make sure there's no contaminants, and then the guys at top, they try to watch as well as they're pushing that brush around, but you can imagine if there's a piece of steel or something in there, just even a piece of plate steel, and you don't catch it, and they get that in that machine, it could cause quite a bit of damage, so.
Is there any other company besides the one in Mooresville that you can get another bid besides just?
I can certainly check to see, and see what we can come up with. Forest Commodities is just one we've used in the past, so. And again, I'll be bringing this to the board at a later date, once I get that information, so. If you'll turn over to page 14, item 6, we accept refrigerated appliances such as refrigerators, freezers, window air conditioners, dehumidifiers, water coolers, and we do charge for those, and we do most of that processing in-house. Our plan is to utilize this recycle force to help us get caught up at times, and I did do some research on them, and they recycle the metals, the glass, the plastics, any other materials according to EPA and state guidelines, and they also drain the refrigerant, which is the gas, according to EPA guidelines and regulations as well. They provide us with a certificate of destruction as well, so just wanted to update the board on that. Okay, that's all I had on the regular agenda at this point. I'll go ahead and move on to the budget summary. The budget summary, it's titled at the top. You want to grab that page there, and we'll just go through that. The second document is your spreadsheet, which has every line item of the budget on it. What I generally do with that spreadsheet is, this is kind of the first review. Oh, you don't have that, okay. The spreadsheet, normally I don't go through every line item. I give that to you at this meeting to give you a chance to review it for our next meeting, and we can go over any questions you may have in any given line item. The budget summary, so I'll go ahead and go over that.
Is it different than this?
Oh, you did.
Raleigh didn't get one in.
Yeah, I don't have
All right, so we'll just go with this budget summary here. So section, Section A shows you the 2026 proposed budget of $3,740,651. Number 2, there's a 2025 certified budget of $3,863,633, and then the change from 2025 to 2026 is a reduction of $122,982. Section B, under the tax levy, our certified levy for 2025 is $1,799,034. The 2026 estimated maximum levy is $1,872,308. For our net levy, we'll be waiting on some additional information to get that put together. We'll have to get the assessed value, which is, I believe it's due August 1st, and then the circuit breaker credits is going to be the big thing we're looking at, which those should be available as of July 31st. So I think those circuit breaker credits will probably give us a lot of information regarding that Senate Road Act and how that's going to impact our budget as far as losing revenues in our taxes from those credits. I don't know if anybody else does that understand. I think that's how I understand it. So we should maybe see those as of July 31st. So that'll be really helpful for us. Section C, the tax rate, we're at a 0.0775 now. Let's see.
I don't know.
Okay, section C, we'll go with a tax rate. It's .0775 currently, and then the 2026 certified rate is dependent on what the assessed value is. We're always told when we advertise for the budget to use 85% of the 2020 assessed value to calculate our proposed tax rate. So if you'll control to page 2, under salary and wages, the first bullet point there is, again, we discussed this the last meeting, the possibility of eliminating the anniversary increments as of
One
January
correction
1.
on that, that is not a possibility, that's already been done.
Okay.
That's already been done, effective January 1.
Okay.
So anybody that would fall into that now, in between now and December 31st, they will get the increment, but not after
After
December
January
31st.
1st, okay.
Yeah. That's already been done.
Okay. Okay, and then the second bullet point, which I mentioned the last meeting, is looking at making a wage adjustment for the controller position, bringing that up from 52,416 to 53,616 with those added responsibilities. And then the third bullet point is the one-time stipend. This is a new item on our budget. $500 for full-time employees and $250 for part-time employees working at least 24 hours per week. Again, this is just, a proposal. It's not a guarantee of the stipend at this given point in time, so. Go to item 2. Line items 5 and 8, our health insurance coverage, we have made adjustments for that of approximately 10%. And then payroll services, line item 10, this is a payment we make to the county for the payroll services that they provide to process our payroll. So we've always done it's $10,000 in the past, and we're proposing that again for 2026. We turn over to page 3. We'll go down to item 7, professional services. Line item 35, which is engineering consultants. You'll see I've got 3 bullet points listed there for engineering service at the transfer station. First one is for dust control improvements. The second one there is an engineering assessment to evaluate the condition of the building and provide specifications for recommendation and repairs. The building, I believe, is 29 plus years old, so we've got some items that need to be addressed. And then last bullet point there is an engineering services for a transfer station building addition. This is something we've been pondering around for the last, few years about doing an addition where it goes out to the east, about doubling the capacity as far as size-wise, and then also increasing the size of the doors and adding a third door for residentials. And I did provide you with this is just a preliminary sketch, and this was done a few years ago. The overhead door openings, those are much taller and wider, and then you've got a third overhead door. Did you get?
Is it attached to this? That third overhead door is
The overhead door that we would use more for like a residential and small haulers going to that, and you can see the office off to the side there, so. If you turn to page 4, item 12 under repair and maintenance, there's line item 53. This is the maintenance and refrigerant facility. This is the building there at the recycling center that our collection station department is based out of. That building we actually painted last year, the exterior of it. The roof is estimated to be 25 plus or minus years old, and there's several problems, that we need to address with that. And we've got an estimate to replace that with new gutters of approximately $40,000. And line item 57 is the transfer station facility repair and maintenance. Again, that building is 29 years old, and we've got $60,000 in there to address some things, roof repairs, painting the metal wall panels, commercial entry door, and then doing replacing some support girts and wall panels. If you turn over to page 5, line item 60, recycling center facility repair and maintenance. We've got some leaks in one of our main processing building, and we've got an estimate for $15,000 for that. And item 13.
That's the old stone mill building.
Yeah, that's the old stone mill building. Yep. Yeah, you got we kind of refer to it as the MRF, Material Recovery Facilities, what we do all of our processing in, and it's a pretty old structure, and the main component of it, the roof's got some leaks in it, so. Line item 65, under 13 there is compost processing equipment. That's $35,000. That's for grinding services for the vegetative waste at not only our compost facility, but of course over at the City of Bedford's located at Murray Park. Line item 69 is collection station leases. We've got $15,000. That's for all of our collection stations, the annual lease to pay for those. If you turn over to page 6, line item 73 is for our household hazardous waste disposal. We have $65,000 in for that. Line item 74 is for electronics waste. That's all the screen devices, TVs, CRTs and such, and then also refrigerated appliances as well. And our largest line item in our budget is line item 76. That's $1,170,000, and that's for our transportation of solid waste from the transfer station to the landfill via our contract with Rumpke. So that's what that line item is for. Okay, so line item 83, there's no appropriation in that, and that's where, just to speak a little bit on the building expansion, if it's something we decide to do, we do have engineering services in to give us, drawings and construction estimates for 2026. And then if the board decides to go beyond that and actually do a project, we would look at having that put in a budget for 2027. So there's nothing in this budget for that, so. We'll turn over to page 8. Transfer station improvements, line item 88. That's for some stormwater drainage improvements there on site, and also the dust control improvements we're estimating. Those are, again, just estimates. And we've got that in for engineering services as well to look at those. Line item 89 is recycling center improvements. This is something we looked at last year. We actually have it in this year's budget, but I'm not sure we'll have a chance to get to that. So I went ahead and just put it into the next year's budget. It's the recycling center access control. That's chain link fence and gates. Pretty well going over there in the entire front. You've got multiple gates, and then going down the side to meet the existing building there. And then line item 90, collection station improvements. We're doing Star Stop this year, and then next year we're going to do Mill Creek. We're proposing to replace the attendant shack, the electrical work. I did put a 3-phase service upgrade there, although that may fall under the same thing that we did at Star Stop, where we may consider the variable frequency drive and all that, so. So if you turn to page 8, we'll go to line item 9.
According to the clock, it's 10:30, and I want to call this special meeting of the Lawrence County Commissioners to order. The only item on the agenda for this meeting is discussion and understanding of our local ordinance pertaining to animal control. So what we have, I think, as much as anything, is the need to come to a better understanding of what our current ordinance states, what we've been informed about the ability of that ordinance to be utilized, and whether or not we need to totally readdress the ordinance itself. So, Judge Klein, if I may, I think the biggest discrepancy is between what we consider to be a lawful ordinance, the way it was written, and the way you interpret that as a judge, and how you would approach it in relation to state statute.
Okay, I can't speak as to specifics, but I will tell you, as a general rule, if there's a state statute that covers something, and there's a county ordinance that contradicts, the state statute trumps, like allowing a dog to stray, for example. Allowing a dog to stray in the state statute makes an exception for non-aggressive dogs in, I forget the exact term, but basically an agrarian setting. That's the reason why cities and towns have, you know, animals running at large ordinances, but out in the county, my dogs can walk in their field.
Right.
As long as they're not aggressive. The other thing my wife told me to say is to bring back rabies clinics.
Bring back rabies clinic?
Yes.
Okay.
And the reason why, I've been, just as a matter of, she said that, and then also an aside is, I've seen an uptick in rabies ticket cases, harboring a non-immunized dog, and that's just the dogs that the animal control officer comes into contact with people on. So I'm guessing there's a lot more, and I think historically we started the rabies clinic because there was rabies problems. And now, and I get it, if you own a dog or a cat, you should be able to afford a trip to the vet to get a rabies shot. But there's a big difference between going through the line at the rabies clinic for $15, $20, and $100.
Yeah.
And especially people with multiple dogs.
Multiples.
And we did it, it worked great before the pandemic.
I didn't know that way.
I was putting my dogs in a stock trailer.
Can I just interject? I just took my dog, it's a large dog, for a physical, just a physical, and a rabies shot. It cost me $450.
Yeah.
So I think that the health department, if they brought that back, that would be a big step for addressing one of the problems that can get people killed, rabies. You know, I'm vaccinated against rabies. The Army vaccinated me. But, you know, other people get it.
Right.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I thought we had a leash law in the county, and he's saying it's not valid,
You do have a leash law.
but it's not
And
valid.
I let my 2 dogs roam because the state statute says non-aggressive dogs can roam in agricultural areas.
Yeah.
And so the county ordinance doesn't really apply to Winter and Jennifer, my dogs. And that's the thing, if you can't contradict the state statute. But in town, the town is like Bedford, it's not agriculture,
Well, like in a community, like where I live, in East Olivia, where there's a small group of houses, and dogs can run loose there?
Well, if it's not, is,
It's not fenced, it's not
incorporated.
fenced.
It's not
No, it's
incorporated.
not incorporated.
Right, well, the key, I think the state statute talks about non-aggressive,
Okay.
you know.
Now, does that mean they can, like, your dogs then could go to the neighbor's yard?
Well, if the neighbor complains, then it's my obligation to get them off the
Okay,
yard.
that's what I thought.
And-
So like the same thing would be in East Politic.
Right,
If the neighbor
if,
goes to the neighbor's yard, even if they're not aggressive.
I have to address it if they're trespassing, and the owner doesn't want them to trespass, then that's on me, to do something about
As an owner, not as a judge.
it. Right, it's on me as the owner.
So where does the aggressive start? When they cross over into your neighbor's yard and come to halfway across it and start barking? I mean,
I can't hear you, Wally.
where does the aggression actually start? Is it,
Aggression is like biting people and stuff, but that's different.
it's not aggressive to just run up to a guy's porch and
wag their tail.
all bark and,
Well, if the dog, it's kind of like pornography, we know it when we see it.
yeah.
I've got two big white fluffy dogs that are always wagging their tails. I would be hard pressed to believe that those dogs are ever aggressive. I've got a Chihuahua that's aggressive every day that lives in the house. So, you know, I'm sure you've seen dogs, how they get.
I have.
The legal term is, not the legal term, but the scientific term is piloerect. The hair goes up on the back.
Right.
Now there's also, you gotta remember, there's the state statute, and there's also property rights. The landowner that owns that land, if he doesn't want those dogs there, then that's what the landowner, that's a private cause of action. And I should, as a private owner of the dogs, should remove those dogs and not allow them to go on my neighbor's property if that's what they want. Some neighbors don't care, but some would.
But I think that's the reason we're having this discussion is the neighbors do care.
Right.
Yeah. And we have a regular set of dogs that continue to do this very thing.
Right.
Question is, what are we going to do with them?
So as far as the ordinances go, I know they can't contradict state law. If there is, like some of these ordinances mirror the state law basically word, but then it is a different penalty or whatever because of ordinance, but you can't have that either, right? You can't have an ordinance.
Right, otherwise, like, say speeding tickets. You guys would make all county road speeding tickets, ordinance violations and collect all those in county. But you can't do that.
Yeah. So I think some of these ordinances, because they mirror state law and have their own, like some of these things, that's why Chad, for the last couple of years, has been enforcing the state law side of things and basically not paying much attention at all to the ordinances because they're, even if they are word for word with the state statute, it has its own penalties and things like that that you can't do because there is a state law already.
And just to be clear, I'm not prejudging anything, but, it's a problem that needs fixed.
What we get into is, I feel like we get caught in the middle between what we believe is just for the victim, whether it's a victim of trespass or victim of aggressive dogs biting or destruction of domesticated animals by straying dogs or whatever. We can't give Chad or the sheriff a directive because we believe that our ordinance is not correct. So,
There's already a state statute that deals with biting dogs.
yeah.
I have prosecuted over the course of my career. Many of those I've prosecuted whenever I was a prosecutor, dogs causing death. So there's already state statutes that deal with that. There's there are other remedies, you know, as a stock owner, I have cattle, and when I had goats and sheep are like a magnet to a dog as far as killing them, and sheep are just looking for a reason to die. So, you know, I understand that, but there's, you know, there's rules about when you can, if you have an animal that is going after livestock, there's rules when you can protect your livestock.
Okay. So, that's a touchy subject, and I'm not trying to put you in a bind or something, but we've heard conflicting statements about whether or not it's legal to, I'll be politically correct and say dispatch an animal on my property if it's creating an issue. So, can you give us some guidelines from that point of view?
Well, the problem is I really can't give you guidelines. And this issue the county ordinance versus state ordinance hasn't squarely come before me, but if somebody said you can't pursue the ordinance, you know, made that legal argument, then I'd definitely make a decision. But there's a state law that deals with when you can protect your livestock.
Can't you, if something is on your property, going after your livestock, can you dispatch that?
You can protect yourself in your
Yes.
property, yes, yeah.
Okay.
And
You
you
can't
can't
just-
shoot one because it's on your property, if it's not being aggressive for you.
Right.
Yeah, you know, dog cuts a corner.
Yeah.
Then there's some people that.
We had a dog that came on my property that killed my dog,
Yeah,
and my,
and you have a right to protect yourself on your property. But yeah, there's state statutes that deal with all this. It's kind of like, there's also a state statute that deals with disposal of basically a dead farm animal, and there's also a state statute about cattle running astray. And there are exceptions in that, one being like a cattle guard. If you have a cattle guard, you are basically exempt from your cows running astray by state statute. That's the cattle guard people have good lobby, I guess.
Yeah.
The other one is, you know, the general statute talks about disposing of a dead farm animal that has to be greater than 4 foot in depth. Well, then if you dig in and go to all the State Department of Agriculture codes, you know there's such thing as an above-ground burial that is recognized by the state of Indiana. There's certain requirements you have to do, but so it's not just simple. And when you deal with their animals, everybody's touchy because we love our dogs, we love our cats. I do, my cows. But so there's a lot of state statutes that are tools in the toolbox. But yeah, there's above ground burial, there's composting, and some of these things make a lot of sense when you go, well, we don't want animals to get in and carry off crops. We don't want spread of disease. We don't want body fluids flowing into water that's going to go downstream. Things like that. They make a lot of sense, but you have to do them in a certain way. So, I mean, I bought a backhoe just so I wouldn't have to have Chad come and see me. So, yeah. And I also think there's a difference. Like, if I have a goat that dies in the middle of 640 acres, and my closest neighbor is a half mile in any direction, and I'm not bothering them, you know. But if I have a cow die right next to the neighbor's house, that's a problem. A lot of this goes back to respecting other people.
Sheriff or Chad, either one, have you got topics that you'd like for us to discuss?
No, I mean, I think that covered a lot of this first, the ordinances. I think our ordinances need to be looked at and some changes need to be made this summer, just maybe they mirror state law and they have different, I mean, we just have to get, you know what I mean, we have to address some of that. There, you know, our ordinances also talk about, there's an animal control commission, and it says who it is, and that we meet on a as-needed basis. But, there's not really any, like, I've yet to find, and maybe there's a state law somewhere that I haven't found, but, like, what is our, I guess our jurisdiction, or our, like, what can we do, what can't we do, what's the, like, if we have somebody here that has a vicious animal, and we keep writing them tickets and impounding the dogs, and then they go pay to get the dogs out, then they do it again and kill the neighbor's stuff, and we go write more stuff, or we put people in jail for it after a while. But, like, what's the process for the Animal Control Commission to say, to actually declare these animals vicious and start putting some of these things in there? Like, are there guidelines on giving the person so much notice to show up at an Animal Control Commission hearing? Is there, like, how does a commission hearing work? There is nothing, I guess. So I don't understand. It says there is a commission, and that we can declare them vicious, but there's nothing that exists that says how all that process is supposed to work. So I'm assuming something like that would have to be into the ordinance underneath all of that.
Well, I mean, this basically looks like it's copied from Bloomington, that part. But at the end of the, I mean, if you, there's nothing that protects, like, there will never be a prosecutor or deputy prosecutor show up for this. There's no way a deputy prosecutor or prosecutor would show up to an ordinance commission. It just won't happen. I doubt that, I would really be surprised if anybody did. The other thing is, you don't have protection as a commission if you take somebody's dog and you declare it vicious and order it put down. Well, okay, there's no lawful authority there that can be cited, and you gotta have due process, and even then it's an administrative thing. They could be appealed to a court. You know, I've had to make that decision before. But that's different because I make sure everybody gets a chance to be heard, that they get to ask questions, all that whole process that has to be. So,
There is a variation here between, I mean, what we've been talking about right now is criminal. I mean, how we look at it as a criminal charge. But there's also the civil side of this that I don't know whether the general public understands, that if my neighbor's dog comes in my yard and bites me or attacks my grandchild or a pet, that there's civil litigation that can occur. And we, as a county, would probably never be involved in that, other than maybe if Chad was called to testify at that or something of that nature. But so we don't want to leave out that opportunity for the public to resolve an issue. So,
and I've done a few chicken cases where chickens were killed by dogs.
yeah.
So, I mean, that's a small claims case.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't even, major reason why I'm here is I'm an animal owner, I'm a livestock owner. Oddly enough, being a lawyer, I don't like any more rules than what I can get away with. Because, you know, I live in the county, I live outside city limits for a reason. If I don't want to mow my grass, it don't affect anybody but myself.
So, can I ask you this, Judge? So there's a thing attached to these ordinances that talk about the the different bonds. So if Chad impounds a dog for whatever reason, whether it be neglect or it's, whatever the case may be, right, it follows state law, like, the ordinance, do these bonds actually cover what, I mean, is that legal, or is there something, because I've not necessarily saw anything in the state statute. It addresses posting a bond within 10 days and all that stuff, but it doesn't say how much, so in that case, does it have to come before a judge and they set the bond, after it's been seized, or are these ordinances all right, where Chad can say, this is what it's gonna cost you to get that?
You know, what you're doing is you're looking for something reasonable. And so, is the amount reasonable? I've had dogs, cases previously passed, and I'm not, again, not prejudging future cases, where I found that $300 per animal was reasonable. You know, there's medical expenses, things like that many times. There could be a situation where a hamster, it doesn't cost $100 to keep a hamster for a month. I don't see hamsters out biting people, but I'm just throwing hypotheticals out there. You know, most of this stuff should be applied with reason and common sense. There's some horses that $300 a month wouldn't even touch it. And then there's some horses that are, I've got one that doesn't even eat hay all winter. It goes up to a field that I own, and it scrapes the snow back, and it is fat, but it won't eat hay.
Easy keeper.
That's right. So, you have to apply everything with reason and common sense, but as far as the standard goes, I've always found it to be reasonable for the circumstances that, and I've not seen, for the most part, I think the officers are, well, not for the most part, I think Chad's reasonable.
This notice thing that we have attached to the back of ordinances, that currently can't be enforced because this is not up to date. The state statutes changed since this was made.
Okay, so we need to review that and
Yeah.
make appropriate changes to that.
Yeah, there's a lot of new wording in that. I think it changed last year.
Because we as commissioners are responsible for the ordinances, I don't know that we need to call this an animal control commission judgment, but I think we can address the change in that notice sheet that you're referring to. And we're not going to do it today, but we will address that.
And I feel like probably Mr. Smith probably needs to
Yeah.
address ordinances in general, whether that, I'm conversing with Chad too, whatever, but I think we need to straighten the ordinances in general, so we don't have conflicting things
Yeah.
with state law and what, I mean, there are some things that we may or may not, even if there's not a state law, I don't know that we want. I mean, what do I tell somebody if there's an ordinance that talks about cats, but I got no place to take cats?
Yeah.
So what do we tell those, you know, what do we tell those people when they come back and say, well, you got a county ordinance, so enforce it? So there's a lot of stuff I think that needs to be thought about.
And that's already happened. I deal with that. We don't have a place for cats.
Right.
And I address that issue all the time with people. They're like, well, we don't understand why you're not picking up cats when there's an ordinance for it.
I 100% agree with you, and we will address that, but we're just not going to do it today.
Yeah.
But, and by the way, Mr. Smith had a commitment in another county court, or another county's court, so that's why he's not here today. So we will, when we get back and we can take this notice, we can review our current ordinance, and we can also review the establishment of the Animal Control Commission and what their responsibilities and, you know, anytime you see something that says as needed, it always leaves the door wide open for doing too much or not doing anything at all. So we
So,
will,
Judge, do you have the, or a judge, have the authority, like we have seized a dog under state law for, because they're vicious and they continue to get out and kill it or whatever. I'm assuming you guys would have the authority to have that dog, to declare that dog, to have that dog put down or to do whatever with that dog.
After due process is filed, after the owner has had a chance to obtain legal counsel if they want, after a hearing, so there has to be due process. And yes, I mean, if push comes to shove, eventually, and some people have just mean dogs, and they, for some reason, don't want to deal with the problem themselves. And they will hurt somebody.
Something that might be looked at that's other counties around us uses under the vicious animal, they have guidelines for those animals. If they are warranted to keep them, they have to maintain them a certain way. They have to house them a certain way. You know, there's restrictions for their environment as far as, you know, their kennels and stuff like that, how they're built, how they're kept. And, you know, some counties around us require those to be checked on, make sure that those folks are complying, that way those animals aren't out causing a problem and, you know, potentially being a danger to citizens.
is that addressed in state law to your knowledge? Anyone?
I don't think
That's
that's,
not addressed in state law. The guidelines as far as how to keep a vicious animal will be addressed in local ordinances, the same as whether or not a animal owner's habitual or not. You know, like if they're a habitual violator, then there's some counties around us that, you know, they can't have a dog for a certain amount of period within the county.
Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody being here, and I don't want to drag this out too long, but I also don't want to stop any productive discussion here. If there's somebody else that's got anything they want to add or question, it's not often we get an opportunity to get together and discuss openly what's going on. It's an issue, and it's so, I never want to downplay the idea that animals can be threatening to people that don't like dogs or like cats or whatever, and one invading their personal space, their personal property is an issue to them. And I don't want to downplay the importance of that. Chad's job is to help protect people, and that's really the purpose of us being here today. So we'll try to do our best to review these ordinances and the notice form that Chad was speaking about. And Judge, I appreciate your time. I'm not saying that we won't have to come back to you sometime for another opinion about something.
well, you know,
If you can give it, I understand.
right.
Yeah. So, any other comments or questions? Yes.
I have a paper that has, if you folks want it, that's a lot of the common state statutes that we use in animal control related instances. Then that way you can familiarize yourself with those if you want to see that.
Yeah, if you give
I have
that,
some prints here.
Martha, well, after the meeting, Martha can take that and copy it and get each of us a copy.
Yeah, I want a copy.
Yeah. Okay, anything else? Any comments? Anyone? Well, I appreciate everybody, so we'll consider this adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have to hit this button, okay. Where did the button go? You already did it. You're not taking any chances on me, are you?
Okay, please stand, join me in the religious pledge, and Pastor Cross will do the prayer.
No, we have Mr. Crawford has.
You want to pray first? Okay. We'll do that first.
Father, we take this time just to be calm and give you thanks for this county, for this state, and for this country. And Father, now we particularly give you thanks for those people you have raised up to lead us at this time in this place. And we ask that you would watch over this meeting, give us a great portion of your wisdom as we move this county forward. And we just ask that you would continue to lead us into a bright and wonderful future. And we'll give you all the thanks for it. For we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
I want to thank everybody for coming on this one, and we'll get started up on the list. Approval of minutes for the June 2024 regular meeting. I see everybody's with these.
Motion to approve.
Got a first from Julie. Second from Jeff. Any questions on this one? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The second one is the special meeting on June 27th. And I'm sure most people have read this, and I think there's a problem with this one.
I have an addition at the very end. The motion to deny abatement 1902 was one motion, and then there was a motion to rescind the ordinance in a separate vote.
I will make that correction.
So that part will be correct. Stick with that one, and we'll get this one next time. Okay. Going back to Jeff Galley, Mr. Brock.
Good evening. I'm here representing Magistrate Gowdy tonight. She had a prior obligation night with the change in the schedule of the county council, but I'm here to get approval for budget 922-1, which is our juvenile detention alternative program. This is a Department of Corrections grant for our juvenile alternative program. This is a grant we've received the past 5 years. And it's in the amount of this year $64,804.
$64,804.
Correct. This grant runs from July 1st to June 30th. It's not on the regular year cycle.
Any questions on this? Have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Phyllis, second. Any questions on this? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you very much.
Paula Edwards.
Second.
Okay, it has to be changed.
Rick, I think she was out sick today.
She's out sick today.
I think so.
So that means we'll walk on down to chat sheet.
Good evening. I've got two hire requests replacing staff that have left.
My community corrections administrative assistant gave me notice this morning that her last day will be Friday. So this is a partially grant-funded position and paid out of project income, the rest of the salary. So it's a full-time position that we've had for as long as I've been there.
Say how it's funded again, I missed.
Part of it is out of the grant, the Community Corrections DOC grant, and then the rest of it is out of our project income user fees.
Is the benefits grant funded too?
Yes, 100%.
What is the position?
It's our front desk person who answers the phones, greets the people at the window and lets the officers know they're there. They sign up people for community service and road crew. Just a lot of various office tasks for community corrections.
And this is a full-time position?
Full-time position.
Monday through Friday?
Monday through Friday, 8 to 4.
More questions on this one? Call for a motion.
Motion to approve?
Jenny first,
Second.
Amy seconds. Any more questions on this one? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you. My other one is for my part-time juvenile road crew. Due to safety concerns, my advisory board last year wanted us to hire someone with, like from the sheriff's department, part-time, or court security, because we had some incidents with the juveniles with our current staff, and for safety issues, we had hired a court security guy. He left in February, and I've been looking and looking and looking for someone, and I think I found someone. So this is a part-time position that is 2 times a month, and it is paid out of user fees. Well, historically, it's been paid out of user fees. DOC actually gave me grant money to pay for part-time road crew, and that is the juveniles that we go out with, do various projects through the fairgrounds. Actually, yesterday, we helped out the women's shelter organizing their shed all day. But we do a lot of work out the fair, and when we don't have work, we pick up trash.
Is this all year?
All year, yes. 100% paid for by grant and user fees.
Any other questions? Call for a motion.
So moved.
Julie first,
Second.
Jeff seconds. Any questions on this one? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Okay, CF1, Indiana Longstone. Well, that's a good one. I did that last time, exactly, because I keep looking for list. And I don't know what the weather is at. How would you say they do it?
Weeks.
It's, I was gonna say. Sorry about that.
See, it's not just you.
Thank you.
I don't know if you'll, it is just you.
Probably just special.
All right. Good afternoon. I'm Rebecca Payne. I'm the interim county extension director, while our 4-H youth educator / county extension director is on maternity leave. So hopefully you'll get used to seeing my face here for the next couple of months. But I'm just here tonight to give you an update on the things that we're working on in extension for this second quarter. So I know I just passed that out. Obviously, you haven't had a chance to read it, but hopefully you will take a look at it at some point when you have the time. We feel like we have a lot of good things going on, and we're really happy to be sharing with you all that we've been up to. And so just in the last 3 months alone, we've had outreach and direct education to over 500 Lawrence County residents. So we feel really proud about that number, and these are opportunities that we're getting these folks for direct education and all kinds of skills and resources across a variety of program areas. So as a reminder, Extension is made up of 4-H and youth development. That's one program area. And there's health and human sciences. That's another one. there's ag and natural resources, and then there's community development. So all of those program areas have their own sort of focus on particular things. However, there's a lot of opportunity for them to overlap and complement one another. So we're a great team over there trying to do the best for all of the people that we get the pleasure of interacting with. So just want to take a second to go over some of the specific accomplishments. Out of our community wellness program, our community wellness coordinator was able to forge a partnership with the Orange County Food Trust and Glick Philanthropies to fund a mobile farm stand. Perhaps some of you saw it. This was hosted in June, and the mobile farm stand was stationed here in Bedford. And we had 49 residents participate in that. And the grant funding and coordinated efforts enabled the purchasing of fresh fruit with grant support averaging $13.72 per person. So that was a nice partnership. That was a success. The nutrition education program advisor was very busy this spring wrapping up her in-classroom programs. So she taught 19 lessons that covered or reached 326 students. She did 5 specific lessons out of our Eat Smart, Move More program. And she conducted 2 lessons through our Learn, Grow, Eat, and Go curriculum. And these are programs that provide essential health and nutrition education to elementary students. And a lot of these kids are not receiving this formal health instruction during school, so this is supplementary. The PE side of it is typically covered, but this is more towards food nutrition and just developing lifelong skills around nutrition and health and related topics. Coming out of our 4-H and youth development program, we had a very successful 4-H mini day camp this year. We had 32 youth, grades K through 2, who participated. This was a 2-day camp where they had hands-on learning opportunities covering topics from science to healthy living to civic engagement to s'mores. So it was a very fun opportunity for our kids, but most impressive to me is that we had 16 amazing teen counselors who came and showed up and led the sessions. And so talk about future leaders. It was just a really nice opportunity for our youth to be involved in that way. And then coming from the Health and Human Sciences program, I've been busy working alongside my colleagues at the state level to develop what we're calling a digital ambassador volunteer program. And the goal here is to train a base of volunteers who can turn around and educate across subject matters related to digital literacy. So this is obviously an important topic, especially here in Lawrence County where our sectors are manufacturing and health. So a lot of digital skills are necessary to be successful in those sectors and to have a good base of employment base. Folks who are ready and trained to do that. So very excited, stay tuned for that. There'll be more, it's just unrolling, so that'll be coming down the pike and more, I'll have more robust feedback in terms of participation on that once we get going. And then out of our Ag and Natural Resources program, we had our 3rd grade Ag Day this past May out at Lawrence County Fairgrounds. Actually, this isn't my program, let me double check. We had stations across the camp, across the fairgrounds, and the kids got to rotate through all of the stations. There were 12 stations. We had 60 volunteers show up, some involved in 4-H youth development, others just interested in what's going on. All of the extension educators were out there helping as well, and we pulled from almost all the elementary schools across Lawrence County. So it was really fun. It was a really great day. The most popular session, I would say, was the drone. session, because it was pretty neat. So, and then just briefly wanted to say that we have, in the absence of our full-time A&R educator, we do have with us temporarily our program assistant Cassie, and she's kind of doing a whole lot of things, but she's sort of holding space for ag and natural resource programming until there's a more permanent solution or some other solution. So look for Cassie around. She's an awesome addition to our team. And I think that's it. Oh, I guess I should mention, yeah, we just had fair. It was, spectacular. We had a great opportunity to show the state treasurer around, Daniel Elliott. Perhaps some of you met him. It sounds like he was out there for more than just extension, but we were able to show him some of the amazing projects that our youth did and contributed to fair. And then he also got to interact with some of our youth. So that was a wonderful chance to just showcase all that we do. So you can find me across the street if you have any questions.
In that third grade ag day, we had 476 students with you.
We did.
Wow.
It was, yeah, it's the second one that I've attended, so I don't have a lot of reference, but it was really wonderful. A full day of just ag, all things ag related. So I will note that while historically we've had it in the spring, we did just get approval. We're going to run it in October this year, which I think will be a nice change, just weather-wise.
That's a lot of kids.
There's a lot of kids, yeah.
A lot of kids.
Yeah.
They just bust the kids out?
They bust the kids in, and then, yeah, it takes a whole lot of coordinating, but it's great.
Was they all from Lawrence County, or was that?
Yeah.
all from Lawrence County?
Yeah, they were all from
Third graders
Lawrence.
from Lawrence County are invited.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Paul, what was that you? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yes, I'm going to back up and we'll get Paul.
I apologize, I just.
It's okay. We'll get it.
And I know it says that I'm down for transfers too. I'm not terribly prepared tonight. I had a long bout of vertigo that's still going on, started Friday night, spent a lot of time in the ER this weekend, and they say everything's fine with me. They don't know why, but we will go on. I definitely want to get this request for a new employee in because she's my coworker doing birth and death. And then if you have transfers there, I can explain them probably off the top. I do, yeah, that would be.
On medication, I can walk
Okay.
I forgot one.
Oh.
I took the paper clip off. Paper clips are on. Okay.
Okay, the transfers are just cleaning up. It looks like the immunization and vaccines grant, this grant actually has ended as of June 30th, but we're still getting money in for it and finishing up some claims that I've put in. So there's a transfer of $6 from one line to another. I don't know if these are in.
Very back.
Okay. I think they are all transfers within the immunization grant, just moving money from one line to another so that we could then use all of the monies in that final claim that we put in. One is for 6, one is for $880.40, one is for $517.74, and one is for $1,578.16. And then that allows us to use the monies that were allotted to us. It is a reimbursement grant. And we don't like to give any of it up. We don't have to.
These are all transfers grant funded. I'm going to take these all at once. You got a total of 4, correct? I'm going to take these all at once. Is there any questions on all of these? Scott made motions, is there a second?
Second.
Jeff second. Any questions on this one? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All four of these are okay.
Okay. So with my next, I've got my deputy registrar is retiring as of September 30th. So I'm coming before you to ask to be able to replace that position. It is a funded position, but it is through the health fund. It's not a grant position. And it is fully funded. The only thing that beyond asking that we replace, which I'm hoping you will say yes to, is I'd like to go ahead and start advertising that and then bring them in. I can't hire for 30 days, but I'd like to hire before that September 30th date, paying out of our Health First Indiana Fund so that we can actually do training before they leave. It's just very hard to train somebody when you lose a position and it requires two people to do the job, to train and do the job. I've been here 19 years and I've spent many nights and weekends because of not being able to train prior to somebody leaving. So my first is to replace the deputy registrar with that position to be allowed to rehire. And then my second request is to go ahead and advertise. Now with Health First, I have to advertise for 30 days before we can fill it, but that would still give us a full month if we could find somebody quickly. Doesn't always happen. And then go ahead and get them in that position for maybe 3 or 4 weeks before Susan actually leaves to train.
And that position is, say it again, I'm sorry.
I'm a registrar. I do birth and death certificates, but it's much more. We're kind of the mom of the office, and she's my deputy.
Okay.
I think my title actually officially is deputy for the office, but this is my deputy registrar.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
You did say that was paid out of Health First.
Health First will be paying it until the position is open. And then once the position is open, then we would transfer and begin paying it out of our health fund.
So this is actually two positions, correct?
No, this is a single position, but we will, for maybe 30 days, we will have two people in that position. One who's exiting and one who's training to take it over. And the one who's training to take it over, we want to pay for out of our, because we don't have the funding to pay for it both out of the health fund, out of our Health First Indiana Fund. So we're not taking any extra money out of our health fund.
Any more questions on this? Entertained motion?
So moved.
Julie first,
Second.
Phil second. Any more questions for her? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to wander out of here. Don't watch me walk.
Now we're going to see it one, and then on stuff. We'll get you.
That's all right, you're good. Good afternoon, Larry Hensley with Indiana Limestone. Just give you a brief update. Last year was a good year for us as far as stone removed and stone cells. Everything was right on cue. This year's been a little bumpy from stuff, and just being quite honest, the tariffs have impacted us, especially our Canadian customers up north. From that, but we're working around that, and we're surviving, and we're doing okay. So we're still equal to last year, but we had bigger plans for this year. Some of the improvements that we continue to do, it's not noticeable to anyone unless you're there, but we've added a building on the backside of Empire Plant. We've added 2 saws, we'll have 2 new saws going. They're telling me by September 1st, I think it's going to be by October 1st. Roughly, the building and the 2 saws, about $6.4 million that we're investing in there. I will also get my plug in. The tariffs had an impact on that as well. The saws come from Italy, so we were impacted on that. Overall headcount, we're going to add about 20 employees if we can find them. So that's kind of what's going on there. Well, just make us more efficient. We've added the line on, and we've we used Purdue, if you guys are familiar with this. Purdue has a program where they'll send down these experts down to do a process flow analysis. So they did that. So we moved a lot of equipment around in the building. It's really helped on a health and safety aspect. and make us a little bit more efficient on how we move equipment, what's going on there, so.
That's great. How'd you find out about the Purdue program?
Actually, Shan Sizemore kind of gave me the lead on that and gave me the recommendation before he left last year, and we brought him down. There was a group of 5 people. They brought 4 students, and this is actually a nationwide program, but in Indiana, Purdue's the owner of it. I highly recommend it, and
Purdue has lots of resources that people are not always aware of.
yeah, it was amazing. And the greatest thing, minimal cost, less than $2,000 just to cover their travel down, and they did the whole process flow mapping and did this whole great presentation. Obviously, we had to do the work or hire the work to get it moved, but highly recommend it, and it's a secret.
Did you say the saws came from Italy?
Italy, yes.
May I ask why?
That is actually the best place and where to get saws and
Shoot,
stuff.
I hate to hear that.
It's the stone, I mean, Italy is where a lot of our stuff comes from.
Don't you do some stuff with WF Myers?
Absolutely, yes. WF Myers, they provide the blades and help us from that. But what this will do is actually finishes they're called CEMIC saws is what they are, but they're basically a router, sander, planer. I put it in wood terminology. I grew up on doing that. That's kind of what they do, is they do the finishing touches. So you load a block on one end, and on the other end, it comes out in the pieces. It's kind of, yeah, it's kind of,
Cool, thank you.
yes. Other questions?
Any other questions on this? The first one says Indian Creek. Is Indian Creek still functional, or that's for this first?
Yeah, so that's all of our properties from that standpoint. So we do a little bit of quarrying there. All of our quarry sites, we're still using some of them. It depends upon the stone that comes out of them. So like currently, what used to be Elliott Stone, which we call Eureka now, I don't know why we changed the name. We've paused quarry production there for 2 months. Brought those staff and the equipment to Empire because we're in a nice buff material in Empire. And hate to say it, we want to get it while the weather is good and the summer's there, because Eureka's underground and we can quarry there in the wintertime. And so we find ourselves moving equipment around and people, so.
I guess my question is, with you moving things, how does that work with the taxes and the abatement? If the abatement was for Indian Creek and that's where it's being assessed at, but yet you've got this material now, or this machinery.
Yeah, so like I said, in this case, Eureka, we remove the equipment, not all the equipment, because some of it's made for underground. We move it there, and then we move it back. And we move the people back.
So there's only 209 employees at Eureka.
At that time, I think we're at 220 right now, 221. I always tell people we could hire more if we could find people, or they would stay.
That's
So,
the same number. No, that's what I was looking in both places. Marshall and Charlotte.
This is one abatement, 3 locations.
correct, yeah, I'm sorry, it's the same number at all.
Yeah, it is one abatement, but they have 3 different locations
Yeah.
that it covers.
Any other questions on this one?
I found that very interesting.
Thank you.
Entertained motion?
Motion to approve.
Amy first,
Second?
Jenny seconds. Any other questions? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right.
Motion passed.
Thank you, thanks so
Thank you.
much.
Okay, now we're heading for lit public safety fund approval. one on, some of them cover more than one.
Those pages stick
Okay, I'll
together.
tell you what, rather than get confusing with this, because I think some of these fire departments cover, like Marion's got what? 3, Martha?
I believe so. They have Marion, Spice Valley,
Spice Valley South. Spice Valley North goes to Indian Creek. Spice Valley South would be part of Marion.
Spice Valley, hold on, Sean, the Spice Valley.
We've got Marion, Spice Valley, Huron, and then we should have an Indian Creek.
There's nothing that specifies Spice Valley North.
No.
I don't know.
Do you not have a north for Indian Creek?
This is
Or
all,
for Spice Valley?
this was all that was turned into us.
Let's do this.
So, see this here? Right here. Yeah, I feel the same way.
You guys got, we're doing one time. Marion Township Fire Department bonus.
Motion to approve.
Scott made a motion to approve. Second by Jeff. Any questions on this one? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Which one did you just do?
Marion Okay. This one is for Marion Township, Rural Fire Department.
Motion to approve.
Scott's got a motion to approve.
Second.
Julie second. Any further questions? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That one passed. Okay, Marion, this is what ours is, Scott, I don't have north and south.
Yeah, they cover south, they don't cover north. I don't know how.
So this one would have to be south.
Yeah, that's what, they have an agreement with Huron. There's not another one for Huron in there.
I have it.
Well, Marion has an agreement with Spice Valley South, and Indian Creek has an agreement with Spice Valley North.
So we're gonna do Marion Township, Spice Valley, South. Is what I'm saying.
I don't know, how would that work, Martha, since they filled the application this way?
What they currently have, do they currently have Spice Valley South? Okay. You can designate this as the area that it needs to be. So if they have Spice Valley South, correct, Marion?
Marion, yes.
So if you want to designate this Marion Township Spice Valley South, we can do that.
Including Spice Valley South.
Include Spice Valley South into that.
Indian Creek should have the Spice Valley North.
Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna designate that one Marion, Spice Valley South. Any questions on that? Motion approved.
So moved.
Amy first.
Second.
Phil second. Any more questions on this one? You got South on your papers, right? Here, let's go back. Okay. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That one's passed. And now I've got Marshall Township. Marshall Township. Marshall is by itself, correct?
Yeah.
Marshall is by itself. Okay, any questions on this one? Any entertain a motion?
So moved.
Julie first. Jeff seconds. Any further questions? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's passed. Now, I've got Pleasant Run.
Which one, Rick? I'm sorry.
Pleasant Run.
Pleasant Run?
Pleasant Run. And this is the one they didn't get last year because they didn't submit an application.
They missed it. They missed it.
They missed it, but they didn't submit. They didn't completely submit it. So they did get it in on time this time, so. Entertain a motion on this one.
So moved.
Jeff first,
Second.
Amy seconds. Any further questions on this one? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That one's passed. Get closer. Okay, I'm gonna go after Indian Creek.
Do we need to write that in?
It should be for Indian Creek and slash Spice Valley Court.
Well, that's what I was looking for. I don't have it. I don't have it.
I don't have Spice Valley.
It should be what?
Spice
Spice
Valley.
Valley North.
Indian Creek?
They took over, they have an agreement with Spice
So
Valley.
Spice Valley North.
So they've got the agreement with Spice Valley North. Can we add that, Martha, means that was not turned in that way?
Yes, we can add that. We will make a notification to them and put it in our minutes also that we are including Spice Valley North.
Indian Creek will also take in Spice Valley North. Any questions on that? Entertain motion?
So moved.
Julie first, Scott second. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This one's passed. Okay, I've got Terry. I don't think there's any questions on this. Anybody got any questions on this one? Entertain a motion on this one.
Motion to approve.
Amy first. Jeff second. No further questions. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This one's passed. Okay. Now, down to, actually, there's two on this one because Shawwick took me and got it. So there's two involved in this one. I know there's been a lot of questions that's come
Well,
on.
they're applying as a volunteer fire department, and that's our territory.
Yeah, there's been a lot of questions on that. But I know they're running, is it Miller?
Yeah.
Because they're running both out there, they're running the volunteer fire department and the territory, correct?
Volunteer fire department for the, yes, they need the money.
Pay taxes on
Same thing you did last year.
that.
So that would take in Guthrie with Shawsbury.
Public safety goes to the Shawsbury Township volunteer. When you're talking about the territory, that it doesn't go with the territory.
I I guess that's where I get confused. How do you run a volunteer fire department inside a territory?
That's who we are have a contract with. They are the ones over the firefighter, okay? So the territory pays all the bills, as far as the income, all those things. So we find that the public safety money goes back into the volunteer fire department to the things that's needed there in the fire department.
Doesn't make sense.
Millard, are you referring to the public safety money purchases the equipment needed by the volunteers? Is that an accurate statement?
The public safety money goes to the volunteer fire department. There's things that they purchase for their different things out there as far as equipment. Equipment, on all everything else, the territory pays for everything outside of that. Without the volunteer having the public safety money, they're not going to be able to maintain, unless we jack up the price of taxes on the citizens in Guthrie and Shawswick Township to raise enough through the territory to take care of that end. It's going to have to come from someplace. It's been from the public safety for ever since I've been there for 15 years.
They did raise taxes.
But in that, don't they already have, they've got a tax base now, correct?
I'm sorry?
Through the territory. They've got their tax base now.
Shawswick Township has imposed a 15% tax on Shawswick rural residents last year.
We do, yes.
Yeah, that's hefty. So when you talk about raising more taxes, that scares me, Millard.
Well, I understand what you're saying, Jenny, but if we lose the money that we're talking about us losing with our WIT in the next couple of years, then something's going to have to happen to maintain everything, even in the township, not speaking just of the territory. So that's where we're at. The public safety money needs to go to the volunteer fire department in Shawswick Township.
Because I think me and you had this conversation about a month or so ago. You are highly aware that this lid tax is going away, correct?
We had a conversation, a little louder, please.
About a month or so ago, we had a conversation on this lid tax.
Right.
That the lid tax under with the SB1 is going away in 27.
It goes away after next year. Hardly. Local income tax, if I'm understanding right with this new bill we got, that's crushing many counties, then we're going to lose that. Okay? So where are we going to get our money if we don't do we'll be doing something. I'll be filing some papers with the state, starting, we're going to have to do some increase. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that. But they're not telling us what they're going to do with the lid money that they're going to take out of the townships and out of the county. Do you have an answer for that, any of you?
They can't give an answer. We tried to get answers through SB1, on the SB1 bill, we tried to get answers with the lid, we tried to get answers on all of it.
No.
And the ones that passed it, don't know what they passed.
One.
They created too many problems with us.
They passed it and
Well, they passed the buck, is what they done.
I don't know what they're going to do. But they're not going to. When we lose it out of our office, the lid money is what runs our office all year. Okay, I'm talking about everything in the township fund, excuse me. So, when we lose that, and that's right at $334,000 a year, and that takes care of everything as far as rent, takes care of salaries, it takes care of everything else that runs the office, bang, bang, around. I mean, it's all there, all you have to do is go in the gateway and you see everything's there. and we did it for 15 years, but now we've got a House of Representatives that thinks that they're going to make things better for somebody, but not for the citizens of Charleston Township, I can tell you that, or Guthrie Township.
Look, when a fire territory makes a decision to become a territory,
Pardon me?
when two townships decide to become a territory, and they establish their own tax base, aren't they excluding lit funds from their going forward because it's then a special exception for you to draw lit funds, correct?
We've been drawing on it for
3 years now, or 4.
correct.
And when they first done it, you guys were going to do it for 1 year, Danny, remember? I was here then. But so it's continued, but I know at that point, the discussion was because it was a territory that wasn't no longer part of the lit distribution.
Right.
These two I'm going to take together. This would be Guthrie, which would be through Shawswick. And this one is Shawswick, volunteer fire department.
That's right, two different ones.
I'm going to do these two at once.
Doesn't make sense. Oh, really, since it's hard to understand.
It is. That's why I separated the other ones out. Okay. Is there any further questions on these two? This will be Guthrie, which falls under Shawswick VFD. No further questions, I'll call for a motion on this one. Okay, hearing no motion on this one, these, Martha, do not pass. These do not get a motion. So Shawswick VFD and Guthrie VFD did not pass. Now, moving on to the next one. We need to amend the council attorney contract. Okay.
Good evening. Last year in August, you approved my contract for 16 months, so it's renewable. The next contract would be January of '26. At that time, I was with a local firm. As of May 31st, I'm no longer with that firm. In the original contract, that firm is in there. When I am getting legal malpractice insurance, which you don't have to have in the state of Indiana, but I do, in order to get on the same policy that covers the commissioner's attorney, I was working with Miles Parker, that firm name has to come out of there. And so I amended it to remove that firm's name to put me as a sole proprietor. And then also the contract, the amendment just says that it expires on December 31st, 2025. And those are the only changes I made, other than the names of the council members have changed since that time.
So basically, that would be the county's like Dave Smith.
Correct. I'd be the same as Dave Smith.
That would be the only change. Any questions for the call for a motion?
Motion to approve?
Janie first. Jeff second. Any further questions? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Sam Allen, prosecutor over. Not here. Sheriff Greg Day.
I don't have anything, I guess.
You have nothing?
I got the jail numbers if you're dying to have those.
What was the jail? I mean, I heard it this morning that.
Is it still 88?
It's 82 is the total population.
Okay.
69 males, 13 females, holding 5 for DOC, 3 parole holds, and 1 level 6 felon that was sentenced locally.
They have your commissary report, do you need this?
What's that?
They have your commissary report.
Oh, okay. I didn't bring a copy with me.
We'll share it.
Yeah, so this is just the first half of the year's commissary report on, that's the self-generated funds, what we took in and what we've dispersed. So we have been going down a little bit on that, not maintaining the same balance as normal. We're still fine, but I'm spending more money out of that to cover things to help with the general fund and things like that. And then also with jail numbers being down, we just bring in less money anyway. So one thing we have started doing is, and it's not because of commissary, but I think it will help a little bit with commissary, is we've stopped sending DOC inmates to Greene County as fast as we can. We just house them now until the DOC is ready to take them. And they've been a lot better about getting them on a more regular basis. So that is one change we've made to try to get a little bit more income coming in as well as just being able to charge DOC more because we keep them a little longer. Any questions on the commissary report at all? They'll start being, the new law that passed, this will start being every quarter instead of twice a year, so it'll be 4 times a year you'll get this form. But
E6 is a good money maker.
E6 is a good money maker. Yeah. Again, I say this all the time, but these are, they get their 3 meals a day, they get more calories than is required. They get their clothing, they get their bedding, they get everything they need. Commissary is all bonus stuff for them. And so if their families want to give them money to buy snacks and we supply the e-cigs and for them to buy, then, I don't feel too guilty about it. So, anything else?
The questions are ready.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Good evening, Council. You know that my board has 3 members on it, Brent Steele, Jerry Hill, and Bill Spring. Jerry and Brent are here tonight, and they may have some additional comments after I go through a couple of things that I wanted to do for my department report for you guys tonight. One of the things that I wanted to reiterate is what is the reimbursement, how do we get reimbursements, and what have they been to date compared to last year. Right now we have 2 sources of reimbursement. We have the 4E reimbursement. That goes into a non-reverting fund. That's for expenses that my office incurs as it relates to CHINs, Children in Need of Services, and TPR cases. In 2022, that's when our county became eligible to get 4E reimbursement, and in 2024, the county got $9,542 reimbursed to it for that. This year, as of halfway through the year, we are already at $8,844 of reimbursement, and we don't have Q2 for this year received yet. The reimbursement that matters at present to the council is the one that goes into the general fund, and that's our general reimbursement. That reimbursement, remember, is right now 40% of all qualified expenditures. That includes salaries, that includes transcripts, that includes office supplies. It did not include misdemeanors. I'm going to talk about misdemeanors here in a little bit. But it could also include things that happen, such as maintenance to the building that we're in. A certain percentage of maintenance that happens that benefits the Public Defender Agency gets reimbursed if we get that turned in. And we've been good about, since moving into the Courthouse Plaza, getting that turned in. And the amount of reimbursement that the county gets to the general fund each year isn't chump change. If you look at in 2021, there was $313,000 reimbursed to the county's general fund from the state. In 2022, that was $385,000. 2023, it was $411,000. Last year, it was $427,000. Year-to-date, we've received $314,637. When Bill Raines and I used to argue about what my budget was, we were often arguing about what was the actual amount of the budget and the cost to the county. And I think it's important to know that each year, we have, except for 2022 when I came in, that year we were, my predecessor had gone over budget halfway through the year. But each year we've come in under budget since I've been here. And when you offset my budget by the reimbursements, the cost to the county is significantly lower than what my budget appears when you look at it. That's going to go down even more in 2026, starting in 2025, because we're going to be getting some reimbursements for misdemeanors then, but 2026 and part of 2027, we've been approved for the misdemeanor reimbursement project. That's good because right now, the time spent and attributed to the employee hours for misdemeanor cases is non-reimbursable. Same thing with petitions to revoke suspended sentence filed by PTRs. We don't get reimbursed for work that's done on those either, though the number's pretty low, the weight is low. Misdemeanors can carry a higher weight than PTRs, so the reimbursement stands to be significant. We've been collecting the data. We believe it could be close to $100,000 a year, additional reimbursement to the general fund, okay? So that's an additional benefit. But those reimbursements, they come not just at the good graces of the Commission on Court-Appointed Attorneys, previously called the State Public Defender Commission. It comes because we follow certain rules and standards. The rules and standards that we follow have to do with the caseload requirement that the attorneys have to be under to meet the American Bar Association and the Indiana State Supreme Court caseload standards for criminal defense representation. It comes at pay parity, which is often confusing and not understood, but it requires that the public defenders be paid comparably to what the prosecutors and the deputy prosecutors are paid, and it requires that the county form these budgets that we then seek reimbursement for. We were one of 9 counties to get the misdemeanor reimbursement. Part of that was great networking that we have with Senator Cook. The other part of that is they knew we were a safe bet because the data that they've been collecting from us, that we've been collecting for them and sending to them, and as far as this has been concerned, has been fantastic since about 2022. They haven't sent us a 90-day letter. We haven't fallen out of compliance. They know we're tracking. They know we're doing good data collection, good work, and we're maintaining high standards for them. So I wanted to go over that because sometimes there's some confusion about what is the reimbursement, is it even worth it? And when I came in 2022, the first thing I tried to do was figure out whether, number one, the agency was worth saving, was it a good value? And I identified that there was concern about management and value. And when you look at the value for what the county gets for the price and how much the reimbursements impact, it's a great value. And then the management side of it, I would have to toot my own horn, and I don't want to do that. But we haven't had any turnover in employees. We're all meeting the caseload standards and pushing forward through those, and everything's working well. I wanted to give the council time to hear from and ask questions of my board president, Brent Steele. If you have any questions for me before then, happy to hear them.
Questions?
I just have a request, because I don't think I have a copy of the standards that we have to follow. You should send that to me at some point.
Absolutely, tomorrow.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Steele?
Madam President, Butterfield, members of the council, thank you for this opportunity. I wanted my portion of this presentation to center itself basically on the issue of parity. The reason I'm on this board is because that when I was in the Senate, I was appointed by the Senate to sit on the State Council, the State Public Defenders Council. And we were the ones that would hear from time to time when public defenders got out of sync with their compliance on caseload ratio, where they'd have too many cases for the number of public defenders in the council not getting their job done, and we would withhold their reimbursement, and then they would ask for an appeal, and they would come before us, and a council member, usually one council member, and the public defender, sometimes two, would come up there, and they would be asked to present a remediation program. What are you going to do to correct the problems? And if they did, then we'd eventually restore a portion, if not all, of the reimbursements. After I got back home out of the legislature, I'm sure that that's one of the reasons that the judge has stuck me where I am. And that being said, that whole thing with regard to the ratio of number of cases per public defender, that started actually, that study when I was in the House. They were seeing at the state level cases where there was ineffective assistance of counsel because the public defenders that they had were swamped. They had way too many cases, and they were just basically running them through the mill and not paying any attention to the cases at all. And they were getting successful claims for inefficient assistance of counsel. So through the study, they finally came up with what they came up with was a ratio, in their opinion, as to what was the proper number of cases each public defender should have. And that was codified and set down from on high. Now, we don't create, the public defender does not create its work. It gets assigned its work. And when you talk about parity, that ratio came through my committee in 2010. In 2014, we created the pay parity, and that also came through my committee. And I know that parity speaks to the similarity of positions being paid comparably. It has nothing to do with number of employees. Don't fall into that trap, and I'll tell you why. If you go purely by number of employees, I'm going to say the public defender has 4 employees and the prosecutor has 6. The reason that we might have 4 and only need 4 is because our people are productive and efficient. If you can, and then maybe for whatever reason, the prosecutor needs 2 more than we do. If you converse that and turn it around the other way, let's suppose we are maxed out at 6 and we can't take on any more at our current caseload, and all of a sudden the prosecutor cuts his staff down to 5, and you say, well, parity has to be mean number of employees. No, it doesn't. Because if you cut us down to 5, then we're out of sync and we're out of compliance with the board. And I'll tell you another reason why I know it doesn't mean similarity of positions is this. In the Indiana legislature, we do not have a journal. Our legislative intent is not set out in a bill like it is in the federal government. When you say the reasons for this bill is so and so and so, and that is why we're doing it. We don't do that in Indiana. The bill speaks to itself. It's very plain, and under the rules of legislative construction that the Legislative Services Agency puts out is the bill would speak specifically to what it means. Clear language. If they meant parity in employees, they would have said it. It's pay parity. So I'm just, in your decision making, just be careful not to fall into that trap, and a public defender can't control his cases, but a prosecutor can. He can decide, he or she has the ultimate decision to file or not to file. They have the decision to run it through diversion, or they have the possibility to run it through deferment. We have none of that. Our caseload is our caseload. We can't control that. And like it or not, it is controlled from a higher power than us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hill?
I'd just like to mention the fact that I am the state-appointed member of the Lawrence County Council's or Public Defender Board, and I was appointed before Tim showed up, and so I had the experience of the turmoil I think the office was going through, and I could see it as new eyes since I was there. But I'd had experience with the Public Defender's Office through family members, like a lot of us have, and didn't understand the problems and the controversy. But when Tim came aboard, I was extremely impressed with the fact that he was very detailed in his concerns about the budget and making sure that our committee of three were very aware of what's going on. You know, we meet religiously every 4 months, 3 months, and we get into the details of it, and I'm really happy to do that because I'm a numbers type person. I want to just mention a couple of things where I saw the improvement was huge. When I first went through, when I first came on the committee at the county level, meeting the staff lawyers and how disillusioned and just down in the dumps they were. They were not happy. They weren't really getting much in the way of leadership, a lot of criticism, pointing fingers back and forth, and I could see that one of the reasons I might have been appointed because I had had some personal affairs again with family members in the Lawrence County court system. So I could see it, but I could also see the huge change after Tim came on board on the hiring and the retention, which I think is exceptional. And you can see it in the people with their smiles. It doesn't hurt to have a nicer new office area too, I have to admit that. The only other thing I'd like to just mention, I also have made an attempt to talk to the judges. I haven't talked to all of them yet, but I've talked to Judge Klein and Judge Nykirk, and I just felt a very high level of satisfaction with the attention they're getting and the fact that we're willing to really listen to them. I have to also admit that in my other life, I am also involved in an addiction recovery program where I counsel a group every Sunday night. I get to see the young adults and some older adults too that are in recovery and they're trying to get help and work together. And I hear a lot, both before the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting about the services they are getting and what they're up against. There too, there's a level of improvement I see in the fact that the drug court is working, and it's working because the whole community of our court system is working, and that includes the public defender and the prosecutor's office. So I would hate to see us do anything to hurt what Tim has built. I'm very pleased to be a member of this group, and I enjoy the time now when I go to his meetings. Thank you. You got any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. You were done? I got one question. Maybe you can answer this, and maybe you can't, because I've heard you guys talk about this before. But we've got several murder trials going on right now here. Have you got any of them, or can you answer that? Or the question I'm asking is, if you didn't have them, what would that be costing us under the next thing I'm going to have to cross, which is court orders? Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious.
So January 1st of this year, we had 5. Then in, I believe it was first part of May, we got a 6th. All of those have remained in-house. So as far as what they cost to the county, nothing additional. If you were to farm those out, you'd be paying a minimum of $110 per hour plus door-to-door for the work that gets done on those. As to court orders and what you get on those, some of those have psychiatric evaluations that have been involved. There's 2 trials in September, 2 murder trials in September. Both of those have had psychiatric evaluation components. Those are what you're probably getting court orders, because the court, under the statute, has to appoint the doctors to do that. Those are the court's experts. Now, in the second trial, there is a third expert. Where there's a third expert, the county gets reimbursed from the State Public Defender Commission for that third expert, the portion or the percentage that they get. So in that case, there's some reimbursement for that third doctor. But those are the court's witnesses that have to be done by statute. There are very few psychiatrists, psychologists that do the forensic examinations. In fact, one of them that we used, that the court used in both the 1st of September and then the end of September murder trials, has relocated to Florida. Ouch. So the judge in that case is working with counsel to try to allow for remote appearances. That'll decrease cost, because otherwise, the county's gonna have to pay for the travel of the physician that the court appointed. Nobody knew he was moving to Florida. But if it was an outside, if you were farming those out, you'd have a black box on what they cost until you got the invoice. Yes, ma'am.
Why would there only be one expert in the state of Indiana?
There's a mental health services crises. I mean, you can't just get a PhD in forensic psychology in a year, 4 years. I mean, I'm sure it takes 12 years to get. And the mental health crises that's happened has a way of burning those people out. And then there's far more lucrative things that they can do than be a witness for a court. And so I think it takes there's just a select number of people that are fit to do the job or want to do those jobs. Indiana just has very few. I mean, you'll hear of Dr. Parker, somebody that we use, and we exhaust him out, and we're just one county. So did that answer your question on?
At one time, there were only 4 psychiatrists. Then we passed a bill, I think, that said the psychologists could likewise do that. We did that when I was there.
So psychologists?
I don't know how much that increased the field, but at one time, there were only 4 psychiatrists.
I can understand that.
It matters, so they just, to address this, changed the law again to lighten up what it would take, except in those murder cases, they still require, at least one of them has to be an MD, a psychiatrist. But I think I could be wrong, but my memory is that for anything less than murder now, you can use just PhDs versus the MDs.
Thanks.
Thank you. Puts us down to, which I don't have any market, no court orders on this at all. Unusual. Okay. Any unfinished old business?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. James first. Second. All in favor, please say aye. We're done.